Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Christopher Barker. I am a licensed clinical psychologist in New Jersey. Today, I'm introducing somebody who is far from New Jersey, but it has a really interesting perspective. This is Laura Corina, who is a birth coach and has a holistic perspective on how to work with women in a natural birth way. It sounds fascinating, and gosh, I mean, tell us everything.
That's a harder topic question to answer, but yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you taking your time with me. My name's Laura, like you said, and I live in Peru, but I'm originally from Germany and grew up in Canada. So I have a lot of different backgrounds. My mom was a nurse. I grew up on a ranch, and I also was a birth photographer before I started this all. I was actually a photographer in general. One of my aspects of that was birth photography. And when I moved here, because my husband's Peruvian, I let go of my business for a time and I decided to become a mom. And then I started to think about what are my options? What options could I do? I was like, hospital? No, I really don't want to do that. Like, that sounds terrible, to be honest, especially here. But in general, I think I always knew I was not gonna have a hospital birth because I was actually born by a home birth through my with my mom, but she had a midwife. And then I started looking into midwives, and I didn't find any here. And I was like, "Okay, well, if I can't go to the hospital and I can't have a midwife, what option is there?" Well, I guess I can do it on my own, I suppose. I never heard of that before. And so I was like, "Well, if I'm gonna do my own, I have to learn a lot." So I started diving in, and I met a friend who is a sister from a friend from high school, and she started giving me resources and things I could check out. And when I started hearing about these stories from women who had these powerful births, I was like, I'd never heard of this way before. And there's so many things that I had to reevaluate and look at differently. So when I looked at the births that I had witnessed, which I had witnessed everything from C-section to vaginal epidural birth, vaginal induced birth, and vaginal without anything, as well as home birth, I had seen it all. I had to relook at everything and relearn everything, and I just realized, wow, there's a lot of things that I didn't realize. One was leading to the other, like the reason why my friend was induced, that I was participating in her birth, was actually didn't make any sense. And there's so many things that I had to see differently. And then what I saw was when we do things the way that our body's designed, like I learned the design of our body, I learned the design of the woman's body, how it actually works and how the hormones work and why they're there and that they're actually there to protect us. And when those actually get to flow freely the way they're designed to, mothers actually enjoy motherhood more. It's a whole different experience. She is more present, she has more joy, she is more connected with her babies. She can trust herself more. So when things inevitably come up in motherhood, she trusts herself and she knows what's going on before she even needs an external answer. And it's a totally different experience. That's what I've experienced. And that's what I see many, many women that I work with and women that I know experience. And that's really what's brought me down this journey because it's not just about that one day where your baby's being born, it's how it affects literally the rest of your life and your baby's life.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, the way it's usually portrayed, and again, my children are adopted, so I haven't had the pleasure of going through that, but it's usually portrayed as semi-comedy, everybody running around chaotically and a lot of screaming and women are scared. I know a couple of
Mhm.
people who are working with women who are in like their third trimester and they are not really looking forward to that whole process. And you make it sound more beautiful. So how does that work? I mean, it's a very different paradigm.
Absolutely. Paradigm is the perfect word. It is really truly a different paradigm. So the difference is, yeah, so you're absolutely right. The way that we've all been raised, the way that we see it on movies, TV shows, even how women explain it is this terrible, horrible rush, constant emergency, and like the scariest thing they've ever gone through in many, many ways. It's like this, the water breaks and now you have to rush to the hospital and then it's like this rush and the nurses are there and everything. And yes, that's what we've been taught. And until not that long ago, I thought the same thing. But then I learned that there's actually a design to our body that's not just like this bomb that's ready to go off at any moment that some no reason, no explainable reason, all of a sudden she has preeclampsia or she has this different things or all these different things, which then lead to an induction and then lead to a C-section, all these different things. It's just like, what? It just happens? Like you just go to the hospital and then, oh, all of a sudden your body doesn't work and now you need a C-section. The reality is that birth is actually not a medical event. It is a physiological, biological event that our body knows to do just as well as to go to the bathroom. It's just as well as when we have sex and eventually have an orgasm. It's the very same hormones, actually. So when we realize that the hormones are actually the exact same, that means the experience could be the same. But a lot what changes the experience for a woman, as you mentioned, is her fear. So the fear that women have because of all this long time conditioning from their childhood, from hearing stories, from all the movies and all the TV shows, like I constantly think of like TV shows like Friends when Rachel's pregnant and she's in the hospital and she accidentally punches Ross in the face and she's like, "Oh my God, that's so painful." And she's like, "You have no idea." Like all the things, the things that we see all the time. And so this gives us the underlying layer of fear. Even if some women are lucky enough to hear that birth is natural and birth is normal and all these different things, there's still the subtle fear underneath that's like, this is going to be really scary. It's going to be really, really hard, really, really painful. And I just have to push through and survive this, and then I get the baby that I want. And what I've learned and what I've personally experienced and what I help other women experience is that birth itself can actually be a really enjoyable experience, something that really ignites something inside of us. And it doesn't mean that it's not hard. It is hard. I'm not going to say that it's easy. Some women, it is actually easy. There are women that can get to that level that it is much easier, but that's very rare. Most women, it is hard work. I would equate it to similarly to like going to the gym or hiking up a really, really steep mountain. It is a physical labor work, but it is a biological force. It is like this intensity of the same thing going to the gym. Is it painful to lift weights? Well, depending on the person, they might say, yeah, it is painful. But really, is it actually painful? No, it's uncomfortable. It's hard work. Your muscles are working and you have to put in effort in order for it to happen. Birth is very similar. It's a similar process. Your uterus is a muscle. It is a muscle just like the muscle in your arm. And when you flex your arm, does it hurt? No. Your uterus actually doesn't hurt when it flexes. But what makes it hurt is that you have this underlying fear, and that fear causes tension. So you tense up, and most women, when the contraction comes, are, oh my God, another one's coming. They tense up their whole body, and then that makes the muscle. Like imagine if your arm is flexed and now you do tension and someone forces that arm open. It's going to hurt. A lot it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
And so the same thing's happening. You're tensing against it and that causes pain. And then next time a contraction comes, you're more fearful, tensing more, and then there's more pain. And it's a cycle that just gets worse and worse as the contractions intensify. What could happen instead, and this is what I teach women that I work with, is that they could learn to trust their body, to understand how the hormones work in their body, how their body is actually structured, how their uterus actually, it's not, for example, we talk about dilation. We just talk about this dilation of the cervix getting bigger and bigger, but it's actually not dilation that's happening. What's happening is the muscles are coming up and over and creating a fundus on top, which is the muscles that build on the top of the uterus, and that is causing strength. It's literally building strength. It's like going to the gym. When you do reps, you get stronger. The same thing is happening. As your uterus does these muscle reps, which is exactly what it's doing, the uterus is getting stronger so that it can eventually then push your baby out, which is another thing we've never heard. We hear that you're the one who has to push the baby out, but actually your uterus does. And you actually don't have to push your baby out at all. Your body will do it eventually. With time, it will do it all by itself because that's literally the design of it. And so what's happening is that muscle's coming up, and as it goes up, it's creating this strong, thick layer of muscles on top right above your baby, and that will eventually push down, and your baby will push its legs or its head, depending on which direction it's going, will push against that to push itself out. So both your body and your baby are actually working with you. And that's something you also don't hear. And so there's all these misconceptions that we don't know. And also a visualization are wrong, like the fact that we think that it's a cervix that's opening. It's actually a muscle that's pulling up. Very different visualization. And so when we understand the actual design of our body and understand the hormones that flow, and like, for example, that there are hormones in our body that flow that are exactly the same as in sex. So sex is pleasurable, and birth can also be, because it's exactly the same hormones. So it's the hormone oxytocin. Oxytocin is the hormone of joy and connection. It's the hormone that also helps you, and there's sensors all over your body, in your brain and on your uterus, that when oxytocin flows, it actually blocks the same place that pain would come. And so when oxytocin and epinephrine, endorphins are flowing, these help to actually make it less painful, to make you actually enjoy the process, depending on level of trust and depending on level of potential fear, and depending on if you're able to allow your body to do what it needs to do. So most women are fighting against their body, whereas we can actually learn to allow our body to do what it's meant to do, and then it can do it much easier. Because most of the time what we're doing is, like, instead of allowing that muscle to stretch up, we're constantly constricting. Imagining how hard that is for your body to work when you're constantly fighting against the body from doing what it's actually meant to do. So this really helps women to learn to understand their body. And when you understand something, you can learn to trust it. And when you trust it, you no longer fear. And when you don't have fear, you can truly learn to surrender and open up to the process. And these allow the hormones to flow so that you actually have a positive experience. And then you actually, as you have a more positive experience, as it gets more intense, you relax more and more into it. It's kind of a practice. It's just like going to doing anything. When you practice it, it gets easier and easier. So at the beginning, it's kind of hard to learn to relax and breathe with your body and to allow your body to do what it is. But as you do it from the very beginning, as it gets more intense, you've already got that as muscle memory. And then it gets easier and easier. And actually, there are women who have pain-free births. Some women, I haven't experienced this. I've experienced a pain-free birth, but some women experience orgasmic birth. They actually have an orgasm when their baby is born, which is pretty cool. But that all, again, it's like literally there's a lot of people that say that birth and sex are the same thing, like one and the same coin. So you have sex, and then the birth is like that closing process of sex. It's the same hormones, it's the same process. It's just as vulnerable. And the same things that you need for sex, in order, especially as a woman, you need to feel comfortable. You need to be able to feel protected. Typically, you need a dark environment. Typically, you can't be thinking in your logical mind. You have to be in your body and really be present. All these same things that you need in order to have an orgasm, the same thing you need in birth. So very similar environment.
Well, I never really thought of it before, and again, everything that we tend to see on television and movies and books, everything makes it sound like an absolutely horrible event. And
Mhm.
I mean, I've heard of women who just like get wheeled into the delivery room screaming, "Give me an epidural," before they even,
Mhm.
experience any pain because they just are certain that it's going to be an absolutely horror show. But I mean, you make it sound that's a completely different understanding of it. I consider me mind blown. That is a really different way of looking at it. My God. If only we could
Yeah.
bring that to more people. I know that now Lamaze breathing, does that help prepare
Um,
you in any way?
Sure. I've never used Lamaze breathing. To be honest, I don't really know what that is. But what I teach women is how to learn how to figure out where they have tension in their body, because tension is the thing that causes pain. So pain is a message from your body saying somewhere you're holding tension or fear or both, because typically they're connected. So when you feel any sort of pain, it's an opportunity, and it's really good to start this in the early parts of birth, when the birth process just started to begin, when it's actually still really soft sensations, to really get into this mindset and also stop distractions. That's a big part too, is that women are very distracted in birth, just as we are distracted in our lives. And this is a really time to stop all distractions, to put down the phone, stop looking at the phone, don't text anyone, don't talk to anybody, don't have noises and sounds and things like that. It's not a party. It's time to go inwards, time to slow down. And this is what I also teach the women that I work with, is like from their pregnancy, even in conception, if I'm lucky enough to work with them that early, is to start to go inward, to start to slow down your life, to stop going to outside sources and outside people to tell you what to do, but to start going inwards and connect with your intuition. This helps you in many different reasons, for many different ways and many different reasons. But through pregnancy, you have this practice that you can go through. Start to connect with your body. And if you have something come up, any fears come up, really facing them and asking yourself, is there really something wrong? Or is this a fear from somebody else? Which most often it's from somebody else. And then as you get into birth, two things happen. You have this practice. It's honestly the same thing as a meditation practice. That's probably one of the best things you can do to really prepare your mind, is a meditation practice. One, for visualization, you can visualize your birth and visualize how it's going to be. And two, you learn to control your mind, because birth is 20% physical and 80% mental. So it's the same thing. I love to use sports analogies because it's honestly very similar to sports, especially like Olympic athletes. Olympic athletes, or really high level athletes, you know how they get to the place that they are? Visualization is the number one thing that they obviously do physical work, and they do a lot of intense works every single day. They're consistent with their practices probably every single day for many, many years before they get to that place. And women have to be the same thing. There's consistency that you can do to show up, to learn, to work through the fears, to do the things that are hard and not easy, and to not just, spend your whole pregnancy in bed and watching TV all day, but really starting to choose the things and make different choices, and to start really take control of your life. So the same thing happens. So athletes, what they do, a big part is before they go into their sport or their event, they visualize what they're going to do every single day. And then just before they do it as well. And as they're doing it, they're imagining that their ball is getting to the place that they want, or whatever they're doing is going to exactly where they want to go. Um, and the same thing is with birth. It's using your mind and learning how to control your mind, to not let fear be the one that feeds it, but rather trust and joy and understanding. And that's where understanding what's happening in your body is a really big part, because when you understand, you can properly visualize. When you know what's actually happening, you can actually know, okay, this sensation is here for a reason. So if you do feel pain, because pain, if you probably will feel pain at one point, you might be able to eventually let go of it. But if you do feel pain, you can say, okay, I know why this is happening. So even if you do feel pain because you can't get to that level, you still know this is a good thing. And this is bringing my baby better, closer to me. And the more that you're able to have positive thoughts and really focus on what is good, the fact that your baby's coming closer, the fact that your body's doing what it needs to do, the fact that your baby is working with you and you're not alone in this process. The fact that literally like billions of women in history have done this too, and you can as well. All these different things help you to really be in a positive mindset because what happens otherwise, just like, for example, I mean, most of you have probably gone for a run at some point. You've gone for a run, and at the beginning, you're like, this is great, or maybe I suck, I hate this, but you do it for a while. And at some point, you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. This sucks. I want to break. And your body could keep going, but you want to stop. And the more that you listen to that spiraling mind, eventually you're going to stop. Whereas if you decide, nope, I'm not going to listen, I'm going to continue, and we go to that goalpost that made myself, that kilometer or that mile, whatever you decide to run, the 5 miles, 5 kilometers. If you decide to listen to your mind, you will eventually stop. But if you decide, nope, I'm going to keep going no matter what, then you keep going, and guess what? Your body can keep going. The same happens with birth. Most often, what gives up first is our mind and not our body. Our body is more than capable of doing it, but our mind decides this has been too long, I'm too scared, or I want this done already. Like, this is intense, whether it feels like pain or not. Like, for me, I didn't feel pain, but I definitely felt a ton of intensity. And there was definitely a moment for me, and this is why I know this so well, where I was letting my mind spiral. And I was at this place of like, this is taking too long. I want this to be done. Like, it feels like my baby's stuck, which not stuck like because she was coming out, but she was just like, felt like nothing was happening. So moms will eventually have this feeling of nothing's happening, nothing's changing. Why don't I feel a different sensation? And so there's like this feeling of, I want this to be done. So they start pushing, even though they're not ready to start pushing. And all these different things happen. And eventually, this is typically when women transfer, if they're having a home birth, or when women ask for an epidural, or maybe a C-section, because they're just over it. You know, you're exhausted, you're tired, you might be at it for a couple of days. And it's mentally really intense. It's physically really intense. And so it makes a lot of sense. This is not a judgment. But the biggest thing that I realize is that we can't even allow those negative thoughts. And that's why in pregnancy, we can already start practicing. We can already start practicing how we allow our thoughts to control us, and how we shift those thoughts, how we really watch what's going on in our mind, because those spiraling thoughts will lead to something. For example, I'll explain some of my spiraling thoughts. So I was like, wow, this is intense. Oh, I can see why women get epidurals. Like, I totally understand. And I wasn't even in pain. It was just because it was intense and I was tired. And then I was like, man, if I was close to the hospital, I could see myself going to the hospital right now. And then I was like, okay, yeah, this is really hard. I think I want an epidural. And then I was like, you know what? I don't even want an epidural. I just want a C-section. I want this to be done. And then I stood up and I told my husband, let's go to the hospital. But then luckily enough, I prepared him, which is a big part of it, is preparing your partner and the people around you, because you will get into those spiral thoughts and you need to have the other people in your life prepared so that they can help you to ground again. And so that's what he did. He helped me ground again. He helped me to focus again. And he reminded me of a lot of things that I was learning. I was training my whole pregnancy. It's a training. It's like a marathon. You're training for 9 months and then you come to the marathon, which is birth. And so I was training, and he reminded me of the things that I had trained my mind with. And then there was just the right words he said. And to be honest, I don't even remember, but it was just the right thing. And that's the crazy thing, is like, your support people will get this intuitive knowing too. Like, there's like this, they just say just the right thing to help you get to that part if they're prepared. And he did that. And then that's where I was able to finally surrender. So I wasn't fighting against my body throughout the process, but I was still trying to control the situation. I was still trying to control my body. And what I realized that I had to do was just surrender. Just let my body do, no longer try to control it, no longer try to do anything. And when I did that, all of a sudden, actually, that's when I hit pleasure. Was like, I completely enjoyed every second. Is when I was completely present. I felt every moment. I felt my daughter come down. It was incredible. And so, yeah, a big aspect is learning how to understand what is going on in your mind, how your mind actually works. This is why the work that I do is not just the preparation of like, yeah, this is how your body actually works, this is the hormones of birth, but also like, how does your mind work? How do you learn to control your mind? How do you learn to guide your mind in the right process? And how do you prepare your mind just as much as you physically, not only the knowledge, but also like, how does your mind actually work? And how can you make sure that your mind doesn't sabotage you? Because that's the most likely thing to sabotage you. Alongside your partner is more likely to sabotage you, and the person that supports you, whether that's a midwife, whether that's a doctor, whether that's maybe just a friend if you decide to have a free birth. There's the people that are in the room are most likely to sabotage you alongside your brain, which is their brains as well. So it's actually everyone's brain that's going to sabotage you, because their fears and their conditionings and their thoughts are going to come up, and those fears can then influence you.
Yeah. We're learning a lot about trauma in the body. I work a lot with trauma survivors, and I guess we're all sort of trauma survivors to some extent. But again, understanding your body, understanding what's happening, understanding why it feels this way. And sometimes we get the signal that comes from the body first, and then we kind of mentally respond to it. That happens more often than people realize. And so, again, if you get the signal from your body of, oh, here we go, then all that prior learning about Ross and getting punched in the face and all those things come back, and you start to remember, oh, this is going to hurt. And yeah, sure
Mhm.
enough, it does. I mean, whatever you're prepared for, that's what you get. So,
Yes,
That's
exactly. That's a
absolutely
big part too.
fascinating.
Yeah, that's a good part. That's a
Yeah.
good point that you made. Like whatever you prepare for is what you get. So if you think it's going to be super painful, and it's not that I don't want to tell you that it's the easiest thing ever. And I already mentioned this because I don't want you to go into birth thinking that's going to be easy. It is going to be hard work, but it's hard work that you are literally born to do. As a woman, your body is designed to do this. It is work that you're able to do. Like a man is physically designed to lift weights and be strong and be physically fit. That is what they're designed to do. We are physically designed to give birth. That's literally the whole, that's why we menstruate every single month. That's why we ovulate every single month. That's literally how our entire design is. That's why we have breasts. We're designed to feed our babies. Like that's the whole design of us. That's not our only design, but that is our principal design. And so our body knows what to do. And so when we realize that we can actually do this, and when we learn how it actually works, we can prepare. And I always, there's a saying, who does it, who says it? There's a saying, I can't remember his name right now, but he always says, shoot for an A. It's better to shoot for an A and get a C than shoot for a C and then get an F. It's the same concept. It's better for you to shoot for a pain-free birth and trust and believe that it's possible, even if you don't experience it, and then do everything you can to learn. Because if you believe that it's not possible and you don't believe it's possible to have a positive experience, you're not even going to try. You might subtly kind of try and like learn about it, but if you full on go in, it's a whole different experience. If you full on put everything into it, you learn everything you can, you work on your mind, you meditate every day, you get up and you do the things that you need to do, you focus on your body, you connect with your baby, you connect with your intuition, you do all that work, I promise you, no matter what you experience, it's going to be a positive experience, even if you experience pain. And I know a lot of women who experience pain in their birth and that they were totally okay with that. They had a positive experience and they enjoyed it. So pain isn't a bad thing. I don't want you to think that pain is the ultimate thing, that not having pain is the ultimate thing. I want you to know that what is possible, so that you aim for what's possible. And then even if you hit somewhere in the middle, it'll still be an incredibly positive experience. Whereas if you expect a birth to be painful and horrible and intense, yeah, it's probably way more likely you're gonna have that because your mind is so much better at creating the worst case scenario than the best case scenario. And that's what I talk about too, is like you could choose to, there's an analogy, I'll say it right really quick. I actually just made a reel about it the other day. It's the black coffee analogy. So if you go to a coffee shop, like there's a story of a woman, she goes to a coffee shop and she sits there and the waitress asks, what do you want? She's like, I don't know. I don't know. I just know that I don't want a black coffee. And she looks through the menu. She's like, I don't know what you want. Can you please tell me what you want? I don't know. Just surprise me. I just don't want a black coffee. Anything but a black coffee. And then the woman goes off, the waitress goes off. She goes to the rest of the orders of the other tables. Then she goes to make the order for that table and it's a very busy day. She does it. She does everyone else at the table. And then she's like, wait, what did that woman want? She wanted something with a black coffee. Okay, I'm gonna make her a black coffee. So she comes back to the table and brings that coffee and she's like, wait, this is the one thing I didn't want. But she's like, I don't remember anything else except for the black coffee. You didn't give me anything else to remember by. It's the same thing. So if we only ever focus on the thing that we don't want, we're much more likely to get that thing. If we focus on what we do want and we actually say what we want and we claim it and we aim for it and we go all in to get that thing, it's much more likely you'll get something like that, or maybe that you'll get that, or maybe something very similar to that. And that's really what I help my clients do, because your mind is really powerful. It's literally the thing that controls your entire life, the way everything goes. And birth is just one aspect. It's a really intense aspect, but that's why birth is so powerful, because when you learn these skills for birth, it'll help you in motherhood, it'll help you in everything. And the cool thing is that when you go through birth and you actually like get through it, and this is the experience I had, was like I went to my Mount Everest. I went through it and then I made it to the top. And when I got there, oh my God, it felt amazing. And I was so damn proud of myself. I was like, wow, like that was hard, but I did it. And I've also done like adventure races, kind of like a triathlon, but a little more intense. And I did those are like 9-hour races. And during it, you're like, why the frick did I do this again? Like, this is hard. I hate this shit. And then you get to the end, you're like, damn, I'm amazing. I did that. Let's do it again. I'll do it next year again, you know? And so that's the same thing. Like these endorphins and this excitement and joy comes. And it's also the oxytocin high that flows, which is really, really incredible. And that oxytocin high is what builds the bond with your baby. It's what makes your breast milk come. It's what helps you feel like joy and excitement. And also, it also gives you energy. And so for the moms who aren't able to sleep really well at the beginning, it actually gives you energy. And so, for example, I actually learned how to sleep really well, but I would work at nighttime typically. I was writing my first ebook at that time. And so I was up late until like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I would sleep 2 or 3 hours because my daughter would then wake up. And I felt like I slept a whole night. I was like, this is amazing. I've never felt this amazing. I've never felt this like joyous and happy and the world is brighter. And that's what it's supposed to be. And unfortunately, most women don't experience that because in the hospital, so many interventions with epidurals, you don't experience that because your body no longer feels the baby coming out. So those trigger points are not activated. And so those hormones are not flowing. You'll still have oxytocin because we automatically have oxytocin when you hug someone. When you hold a baby, you automatically have oxytocin. But that level of oxytocin is like 1 out of 100 or 1,000 compared to what it's actually meant to be. And so when you are under undisturbed. And it
Mhm.
is possible to have it in the hospital, but you have to be prepared for this, and you have to set up your environment in such a way and maybe has a little bit of support, like legal support potentially, especially in the United States. You can have legal support. I know a woman who helps women do that. But to be able to actually have that oxytocin flow, no separation between mom and baby, no touching and prodding and everything that they do in the hospital typically, and sometimes midwives do as well. And that will really help that flow, because that flow is designed to make motherhood so beautiful and to give you the energy and the excitement and joy that helps that early stage be so much more special than it already is with your beautiful baby.
Wow, that's really terrific. I mean, yeah, we're always learning new things about what our bodies can do, and the athletic metaphor is a really good one. Again, the same thing that we talk about, that I frequently talk about in terms of if you're experiencing an intense emotion, it's okay to experience that emotion. It's being able to see past it and relax into it and just like recognize it for what it is and why it's happening, and sort of like then, okay, now how would we move past this? We work so hard trying to get rid of bad feelings when, I mean, again, yes, there is some pain involved, but embrace the pain and embrace the feeling and expect a positive outcome, and that's what you're going to get. That is absolutely beautiful. When I have birth, I can't, but it's like you make it sound like something that would be such a joyous experience. And I'm really glad
Well,
you joined us
maybe
today.
your children can experience it and you can help them with that. But I love what you're explaining
I
about the emotions, because emotions are a big part. And that's a really good point. I always love the analogy of emotions. Emotions are like a storm. You can't stop them. But you have two options. You can either prepare for the storm and then allow it to happen, knowing that it will eventually pass. Or you can fight it the whole time. Like, I don't want the storm. I don't want the damn rain. And then stand in the rain and be pissed at the rain. And then it's a way harder experience. So you can get a cup of hot cacao. You can get your house ready. You can sit it and you can just be like, okay, this is going to happen. That's okay. We're gonna let it happen and it'll eventually pass. Even if it feels like it's endless and even if it feels like the end of the world, it will eventually pass. Very similarly in birth, in two reasons. One, that you do feel like it's not gonna end and you do feel like it's going to last forever. And two, because there are a lot of emotions, especially that high point, that hard point, like what I experienced, which like I would say every mother will eventually experience, is this point of like, I can't go any further. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I want this to be over already. That's also typically when either it's anger, and then anger and eventually leads to emotions. That's typically when a lot of women cry and are angry and scream, or just those emotions. And that happens many reasons. One, because emotions allows you to open up, because emotion holds tension in the body. It's the same thing. And so it holds tension in the body, and that doesn't allow everything to just work. So when you allow those emotions to flow, which typically do, I cried and I let it out. And then I slowed down, I got refocused, I regrounded, and then I was able to do the last part, which was honestly so beautiful. It was the most beautiful part of my entire birth. And so it's really about allowing those emotions to happen and realize that again in any part of life and in pregnancy too. For example, people always say, like, joke about that, oh, you're just hormonal, that's why you're crying all the time. And so it's just like joked about that women are just hormonal and it's just silly and stuff like that. But actually the hormones that are coming up in pregnancy are really important. They're showing an underlying trauma, fear, stress, emotion that needs to be faced, and these are actually designed in order for you to work through the stuff that is coming up so that you're more prepared for birth. Because the more that you work through pregnancy, fears, traumas, emotions, relational things, whatever's coming up, those things need to be healed so that they don't come up in your birth, because those things will come up. Birth has a way of bringing up that which you don't work. It's kind of like an ayahuasca ceremony. If anyone here has ever done one, in ayahuasca, typically the things that you haven't worked through, the underlying fears, traumas, things that you maybe even forgot or never even knew that were there, they typically come up in ayahuasca, and then you're faced with them. And that's why some people say like ayahuasca is like almost like going to hell, because it's so intense and things like that, because all these things are being faced. And this very similar thing is happening in birth, is that this you're being faced with the things that you need to work through in order to be prepared for motherhood. Pregnancy and birth, well, I would even say conception, birth, and pregnancy are designed to make you freaking like like hard, like tough, like strong. And being strong and the things that make you strong aren't bad. Like if you go to the gym and you lift weights, again, it's not bad. That's actually good. It makes you stronger, right? How do you get stronger? It's not by doing easy things. You can't go lift a 1 pound weight. I mean, you can, but it won't do much. Whereas if you go and actually do the thing that's hard, it's going to eventually make you stronger. And if you do that a lot and do the same thing with birth, conception, pregnancy, and birth, they're designed to make you stronger. They're like lifting weights. They're designed to lift your emotional weight, your nervous system weight, your mental weight, and your physical weight. It's all four things, because those are the four things that you need to be a mother. Like motherhood, if you think birth isn't easy, well, motherhood's even harder. But it also, it's beautiful and amazing. It also, again, has that perspective. It's like in society, we're told that motherhood is so hard, it's terrible, you're going to lose your sleep, you're never going to sleep again. you're going to lose 20 years off your life. I literally just made a reel like seconds before I got on this call where and everyone talks about you lose 20 years off your life when you become a mother, and you're going to lose a tooth for every child you have and all these different things. But a lot of that is mindset. It's how we think about motherhood, what we think what motherhood is, that it's this like martyrdom, which I think a lot of us were raised by mothers who martyred their way through motherhood. And it was like this hard, it was like this terrible thing that I have to do. But also, I also love you. Like they did love us, but also they kind of just suffered through the whole thing. And I teach mothers to do things very differently, to actually enjoy it and to see things differently. Like I could say, I have a toddler and she cries all the time and it's really hard and it makes my life hard and I can't work as I want to. Or I can say she's hilarious and she's funny and she has these adorable little curls and she has huge eyelashes and she's so independent and she's so funny and she knows what she wants and she's a visionary. She knows exactly what she wants, and if it's not that way, she gets upset about it, which we all do. And then once in a while and then once or twice a day she has a tantrum. Very different experience, but both situations are the same and both are true, depending on how you talk about it, how you think about it, and how you experience it. And I think, again, with motherhood, it's the same thing as in birth. When you understand what's actually going on, like, for example, that your toddler is not just trying to be difficult, that your toddler is trying to understand something, that's trying to get control, trying to, like, they have all these emotions, like emotions we were talking about. The emotions that we have, the same amount of emotion, the same intensity of emotion, they feel, but in a much smaller body and only with, 1, 2, or 3 years of experience compared to 20, 30, 40, 50 years of experience. And when we understand that, then we can understand, okay, this toddler is not trying to be difficult. This toddler is struggling and needs some support and love and needs it to feel loved. And it's going through a big emotion, just like when we do it. Like imagine when we have a really big emotion where we just can't hold it together. We're crying and we're upset. And imagine now if that person that loves you the most walks away in that situation rather than be there and sits there and just allows you to feel the emotions. And when you're done, they hug you and cuddle you and say that you're loved anyways. Like that's the experience that we get to give our toddlers. And that's what we want. And we get to do the same thing for our toddlers. So in the same way, there's so many different ways to look at it. When you see and understand, it changes your perspective and it changes the way that you go about each experience.
I'd love to have you come back and talk about that some more because that's one of the things that so many people are missing is those early, like really bonding experiences that people have. You said you had a book. If you have things that people can read, we'll put them in comments. And Laura, it was lovely having you. I really want you to come back and talk about that some more because I think you're onto some really amazing stuff.
Yeah, I would love to
Thank
come
you.
back. It's my obviously you can tell I'm passionate about this. This is something that I literally spend my whole life
Yeah.
talking about. I mean, being a mother, I literally do it every day, and then everything I learn, I use in the teachings that I teach women. So I love it. And yes, I do have an ebook. It's called The Magic of Women. It's all about how our bodies are designed to not only give birth to pregnancy, but how they're actually designed. Very, very basic, but enough to get women excited and realize, oh wow, those things have a purpose and there's a reason. Like even like armpit hair and like the things that we think that are gross and weird has a reason and a purpose, and that we're actually like beautifully designed. And I love that honestly women are magical. Like one of the things I'll say a couple more things before we cut off is like, for example, our chest, like even now I'm still breastfeeding. So my daughter's 2.5, I still breastfeed. My chest is hot. And this happens for mothers when their babies are born. And if they continue breastfeeding, it stays that way. It's designed to heat our babies. So when our babies will never get cold. It's literally a designed incubator. It's the best place for your baby to be when they're born. And for a long time afterwards, it's designed to heat our milk. It's designed to heat our babies. It's also what helps them regulate their nervous system, helps to regulate their heart rate, their their brain waves. It helps them to regulate their immune system, their body temperature. It's incredible. And so like just this alone, or our breast milk, for example, when our baby's breast milk, when they breastfeed, there's a feedback loop that happens with the saliva of the baby and the tips of the nipple of the mother, that literally when the baby will send the information to the body of the mother saying, I need this mineral, I'm about to get sick. It has this thing. And then all of a sudden the mother's milk will instantly change and either have more fat, have the mineral that's missing, have more sugar if they're missing sugar. It's so much so if a mother has two babies and she tandem feeds, she has a toddler and she has a newborn baby, one breast will have the milk for the toddler, which is whiter and with more fat, and the other one will have a yellower, more liquid and more light and sugary milk for the newborn. And at the same time, it's that incredible. It's like literally every design about the woman's body is so incredible. And that's what I'm super passionate about. And I think that's really where I started. And then I just started to learn more and share. And as I learned more, I was just like, wow, every woman needs to hear this. And that's what I'm doing now, is teaching the world, any woman that wants to hear how incredible her body is and how she's designed to do this all.
I think every man should hear this too. This is amazing,
Absolutely.
and I'm gonna put this out there for everybody to hear because I think this has been just so enlightening for me. And you speak so passionately and so well of it that it's a joy to listen to you. So
Well, thank you.
thank
I
you again
appreciate
for
it.
being here.
Thank you for having me. I
And
appreciate
thank
it.
you everyone who's listening and for holding space for us. And I will talk to you again soon. And I'm gonna get Laura back at some point soon to talk about, children and mothers. because that
I would
is
love that.
such a fascinating. Great, thank you.